One of the biggest challenges I had with this piece was actually creating the base. After finding an architectural element like a vertical component on this bridge for the Faust Street in particular, I had to design an actual base, something that was functional, that was not original to the structure. I knew that I wanted the part to look seamless, like it was cast iron. The issue that I was having was, after grinding and even polishing to a smooth texture, once I blackened the steel, it was still obvious that there was a section that had fabrication done to it. Ended up having some really experienced individuals reach out to me and share their tips and tricks for achieving a good patina on some of these more decorative pieces. Once my pattern was cut out and then heated with a rosebud tip and bent each flange over and tack welded. The biggest challenge with bending the flange was that it was unequal thicknesses, and I ended up welding on this T-shaped bar so I could control both planes of movement to prevent it from actually twisting as it bent. Once the outside was fully welded, I could then cut the flanges off. I ended up TIG welding the interior portion of this component because the spatter was showing very difficult to remove in these tight corners. Once the weld out was complete, I came back with a ball end mill attachment on a die grinder and removed the majority of the weld and tried to match the radius of the flange on the channel. Once I blended all the edges, I came back with this needle scaler attachment for a roto hammer. I ordered it last minute. I don't have an air compressor powerful enough to run a needle scaler, and since I'm not a full-time fabricator, this worked really well. You can see it just kind of left an even texture over the entire part and gave us an even patina. I then went on to laying out and numbering each piece. There's small variances in the fabrication, and I wanted to make sure that everything lined up nicely. Now that the base was complete, I moved on to the lacing bars. The lacing bars were made out of 1/4 by 1.5" strip steel. Lacing bars are frequently used on steel truss bridges, and they tend to hold 2 pieces of opposing face channel. I think laying out the lacing bars was the most challenging and important part of this project. Laying out the lacing bars and numbering them was a little challenging because if I made a mistake, the entire project would probably get off square. And once things are riveted, it's a little hard to make adjustments as opposed to bolting. Before I could assemble all the parts, I needed to remove the mill scale. Mill scale is a hard oxide coating. It's kind of a dull gray color that is left behind from the hot rolling process. I used vinegar for this purpose, filled the bucket full of parts, and let it soak for 24 hours. Once the parts had soaked for 24 hours, I needed to scrub off the mill scale and neutralize with a baking soda solution. The baking soda will actually neutralize the acid and prevent the material from flash rusting. So a Scotch-Brite pad and some elbow grease, these things cleaned up real nice. Immediately dried them and then put them in front of a fan to dry off. Watch part 2 to see the entire hot riveting and assembly of this piece, as well as the casting of the brass plaque. Thanks for watching.